Birgitte Young here, or B from Wing Sisters, and we are doing another episode today. I think it's going to be episode 17. And
Wow.
I met Sarah, and this is Sarah Sheen, and we met at Lake Mojave a few months ago, and I thought she's so fun. And I want when I started doing these interviews, I thought I want to share her story with you. And Sarah, like who are you besides winging? Like, what do you do? What other things do you love? That kind of stuff.
I grew up in Eastern Washington. So I started getting into winging because my dad actually was a windsurfer. So my whole life growing up, I had like so much nostalgia for like being down at the river and the wind whipping around and like seeing all the colorful sails and everything like that. But I mean, before that, I growing up here, I skied, I hiked, camping, my whole life very outdoorsy. But I spent some time in the Navy actually once I got out of school. So I got an electrical engineering degree in school, and then I ended up in the US Navy for about 6 years. And so that kind of
Oh,
took me completely out of my element of being like more outdoorsy because I was so busy, and then I was often like down at the coast. So like I was in San Diego for a while, and then I was out on the East Coast. And so a lot of my normal kind of sports and things that I used to normally do all the time, I couldn't really do. And then when I finally got out, I came back home and I was just like, I want to get back into it. And that was how I
yeah,
started winging, was because my dad had actually just kind of started experimenting into that. Like it had started maybe a year before I think I
yeah,
got home was 2021, I think was when I got out of the Navy towards the tail end of that year. And
yeah.
so early 2022 was kind of when I first started. And that was when it was like really new. I still have the wings that he was using back then. I don't use them anymore, but it's funny bringing them to the beach because you just see the
Yeah,
difference in the technology and it's just like, oh my God, these things are old.
true. Yeah. So when he was doing that, that made you want to try it.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he kind of convinced me on it too because I'd always seen people windsurfing and I didn't have a lot of familiarity with like the newer tech of and it I feel like the hydrofoil thing seemed really intimidating to me and I was really worried that I was
Yeah,
like
me
that's going to
too.
be harder. I
Yeah.
should just try and learn how to just regular windsurf if I'm going to
Yeah.
start. And my dad was like, "No, no, no, no. You want to learn how to wing, trust me."
Right. And your dad makes it really fun because I got a chance to meet him too. So
Yeah.
I get that you that he inspired you. So that's wonderful. So what are some of the spots you love to visit, or maybe some spots you'd like to go to, or some that you love, you know?
Yeah, I usually go along the Columbia River. So we're out in Eastern Washington. So Hood River for us, like the gorge, the main hub of the gorge is maybe like 2.5-ish hours away. So
Okay.
if there's not any wind on the eastern side, we'll tend to go further out west to actually go to the gorge, and we'll go to like Lord Jensen. Um and the gorge. I haven't yet been to the hatchery because I always get intimidated because I always hear people say that the waves are really big and like it's always more.
I've heard that too. I haven't had a chance to go. I was supposed to go last summer, but I was in a car accident.
Oh,
And
geez.
now I still have something to look forward to there.
Yeah, I want to try it because I don't think it would be as intimidating to me now. But the we go there. Our common stomping grounds are on the eastern side. We go to Roosevelt Park. Uh, that was where my dad always went when I was growing up. I remember it's kind of wild how different it is now because like the beach there, the park with the grass and everything. I remember going as a kid and seeing like just it was just covered in windsurfing sails. Like there were so many
Oh,
people. The parking
wow.
lot was always packed on a windy day. And now it's like you go and it seems like people don't favor that spot anymore. Like either the traditional windsurfers are just kind of fading out and the wingers don't like that spot, or I don't know what, but
Interesting.
winging is just so nice because you can just go so many other places. Like,
Right. Yeah.
but we kind of go
Awesome.
from there up all the way to Hood River. There's a lot of different spots in there.
Yeah, it's you live in an awesome area for this, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, what, how does winging make you feel, or being on the water in general? Like, what's the best part for you?
I love it. I mean, so for me, I think the thing that got me hooked on it is just this feeling of like when you're out there, it's so demanding of every little thing kind of has to go together, right? How you angle the board, how you're standing, how your weight is placed, the way that you carry the wing and how you feel the wind change and the water change. All those things are happening so fast, and yet like you have to react to them in this way that's really like just the back part of your brain, not the front part
Yeah,
that you
I
can
thought
kind of,
about that. Like,
yeah, you can
how
turn
does our
off that
brain
front
work
part.
with that?
Yeah, and you don't have to use the conscious part of your brain nearly as much. And because you're so focused on the like, what am I physically doing?
Yeah.
I feel like it's so easy to turn off that like big brain part of your brain where you're worried about work or life or
Hmm.
whatever thing, and you can just kind of enjoy being out and just in being in the elements and the fight of that and the fun of it. And then when you get back to the beach, it's almost just like you're just like shivery of like you feel so good and you feel so fun. And it's so relaxing to be able to then come down from that and like feel like, oh, okay, now I can go back to whatever was worrying me before, and you find it doesn't really worry you as much because you just got to kind of clean the slate off.
Yeah, yeah, I love how you put that. That's brilliant. I can totally relate. So what's your consistency level for getting on the water, would you say? And
So
what would be getting in the way, if anything?
yeah, so I think this is my fourth season or will be, I think, this summer. So I would say I'm just kind of getting to be like an intermediate. Like I can stay on foil all the time, but I haven't learned how to drive yet. And
Okay.
the biggest thing for me that kept me from being consistent, I think, earlier on was just that as a beginner, you're still struggling to like get it. And so there's a little bit of this kind of like punishment element when you're out there where you're just getting like thrashed around and you're falling a lot, and it can be frustrating to like learn and you feel like you're so close to getting it but you don't get it yet. And
Yeah,
so that sometimes that could be discouraging, or you kind of just like I just don't feel quite up to that today. But
yeah,
I felt like I went a lot. I just didn't there were times when my schedule wouldn't line up with when it was windy just by chance. I work
yeah.
kind of a 4 days on, 4 days off kind of schedule. I work shift work out at Hanford in the East here. And
Oh.
so sometimes it would be windy on a day that I'm working and I couldn't take it off or something like that. I don't have a lot of ability to like take off early in the afternoon. Like my dad used to do that a lot where he would just kind of front load his day and like and then take off at 2 in the afternoon when the wind picked up. And I
Yeah,
don't really have the ability to do that very well. And so there'd be days where I just like, well, I would like to go, but stuck at
yeah,
work.
yeah, right. So you have to there's work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm
Um,
excited though, because I this year I'm hoping to be out there more because I the other thing that I think held me back a little bit was I have a dog and I love spending time with my dog when I'm off work, and I would always feel bad if I had to leave him at home when I was going further out, or if I was trying to like spend the night at like Hood River or something like camping. It's like, well, I should bring my dog, but then I didn't have anywhere for him to be when I was down at the river, especially if I went
oh,
by myself.
yeah.
And this year I'm getting a van, so I'm hopefully gonna
Oh,
be able to bring him with
yay!
me more.
That's good. I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, I'm
That's
excited.
awesome. Yeah, I see a lot of people take their dogs in their vans, and that's so exciting. Do you know what
Yeah,
you're
I'm
gonna
excited.
get? Do
For what?
you know what you're gonna get yet? You're still shopping.
Yeah, I ordered a transit van.
Oh,
So it should hopefully
nice.
be getting built here, I think next month actually. So
Wow.
it'll
Yeah,
be
I know
exciting.
someone who could give you a lot of tips on that.
Right?
So, if you had a magic wand, how would your perfect day look like? Like, what would you want more of and less of, you think?
Oh, I think my perfect day is probably like honestly, it's in that like 3-5-4-0 kind of category of just like where the wind is steady, but it's just like mellow. Because there's just days where like the light wind days can be like you still have to kind of fight for it in a different way. There's kind of that stress in the back of your mind of like, oh, maybe it'll die off. It's not quite enough, sometimes. But on a day where it's just like you got plenty but it's just never too much. It's in that Goldilocks zone where you're not getting thrashed. Because on the high wind days, there's that acceleration, there's that feeling of like this is so exciting because it's changing so fast and it feels
Yeah.
so intense. But that isn't quite as like relaxing. And the days where you just get to kind of cruise around and it's very in that middle zone are so nice. And I think, you grab hour and a half of that. You come back to the beach, you just pull the wetsuit off, you have a beer in the lawn chair, hang out with my dad and his friends and stuff like that, and just kind of there's something about that like we always joke that the Roosevelt parking lot there in that like area where we tend to hang out is nothing special. Like it's not there's nothing that impressive about it. It's not like a destination that anyone would like rave about, like, oh, you got to go here. And yet, on a day after a great session, you come into the water and you're just hanging out there. It's I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, I've been to some of those places, and it's all about the
Yeah,
energy and the people and yeah,
for sure.
totally get that. And I'm sure, those who are watching the replay here can really relate to that too, right? So put your comments in on how your place is if you're
Right?
watching. So, understanding the nature of the sport and how we probably had to adjust, would you say that you've adjusted your life? It sounds like you've been trying to, but like it's a work in progress. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that it as you get better and as you get more of that like positive feedback, right? You're staying up more and
Yeah.
you're like really getting to enjoy the upside of it, right? I think as a learner it can be kind of hard, right? But as you get
Yeah.
better, it's just like it becomes very self-fulfilling and self-rewarding like to go. And so I've kind of found that it becomes like instead of feeling like, oh, okay, I'm working, I'm doing my normal life and then here let me like carve out time of my free time to go do this thing, it becomes more the opposite way of like how much more of my free time in my personal life can I get back to like go do fun stuff like this. And
Yeah.
so for me, like windsurfing, because it is so like fixated on you need to be able to find the time to get the consistency to really build
Yeah.
skills
Yeah.
that has kind of been motivational of like, oh, how many more days can I string together this year? I want to get more days than last year, you
Yeah.
know,
For winging. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So how in a perfect world, let's say, how much time would you want to spend on the water?
I mean, I think especially with
There was
like,
no
in a
obstacle.
perfect world, didn't have to worry about work or anything like that. I'd want to be down a couple times a
Yeah,
week at least. But like, I think what's fun is like with my schedule in the summer, it's like, I mean, there's a lot of places along the Columbia we're really lucky just get windy
yeah,
almost every single week, right? So I think with the van, I'm hoping to be able to go out and get a day every single 4 days that I'm off. At
right.
least, that I think that would be really fun as like a trying to as a goal to try and get out there that often.
Yeah, yeah,
But
that's awesome. And I feel like it gives us the energy we need to be better at what we do in our regular life, like in work or whatever. We give that energy back, and it's more about like I feel like life is more about not so much about time management as it is about energy management. So
mhm.
doing stuff like this to get the to help us feel better about everything, it can
Yeah.
only help, right? In
Oh
everything
yeah.
we do. Yeah. So, so what's some of your favorite takeaways from being in the wind sport community or water sport?
So I think one of the biggest things for me that stood out as like a beginner just starting versus and even just now, it's I've never been a part of a sport or a community that is as like wholesome and welcoming to newcomers, right? Like a lot of sports kind of have that like the people who are really good kind of have that like they're not like jaded, but they're kind of like protective of like this is like our favorite spots, this is the locals only thing, or we don't want to hang out with people who suck or dorky new people, right? Like there's kind of snowboarding or skiing can kind of be that way, right? People don't want to spend time hanging out with beginners. But what's magical about windsurfing and like winging wind sports is like, well, when you're out there, it's just you, right? You're not chit-chatting with anyone. You're just with your own skills, your own board, your own gear. And so when you're out there, you do your own thing. But
Yeah.
then when you come back, well, everyone else is just standing around chit-chatting too, right? So like there's kind of this universality of no matter how good your skills are, when you come back to the beach, you're just talking, you're just a person again. And when you're out there on the water, it's just between you and your own skills and what do you want to work on. And that makes it really easy for everyone of all skills to actually become friends or get along. And like the community is just so welcoming to new people in the sport because it takes so much effort to learn something like this that everybody appreciates people trying to learn it, Like
Yeah.
everyone wants new people to learn it. They want to share the joy. So it's just so welcoming compared to like other things I've tried to do.
Yeah, I find that too, for sure. Um, so how would you say learning to wing has helped you in other areas of your life, if if you feel like it has?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me the main like change is just that this is such a hard thing to learn that you have to kind of eat the elephant one bite at a time, Like you can't there's no like instantaneous oh, if I just really bust my ass for the next 2, 3 hours, I'm gonna be able to just push through this obstacle and learn something, right?
Yeah,
It takes many days, many weeks, right, to progress. And so I think that kind of like meditative patience of just kind of like taking the lesson that's like I always joke with my dad that it's not about the lesson that you want, it's the lesson that's available, as a beginner
right. I love
because
it.
there's so many days where you'll be like, I really want to work on my jabs or my turns, or I want to work on this thing. And then you get out there and it's like blowing 30. And it's like, well, okay, I looks like we're practicing like high wind survival skills today, Or
Yeah,
vice versa, it'll be you want to work on higher speed, more dynamic, and then it's barely windy enough to do it, and it's time to practice other skills. And so just taking the lesson that's available
yeah,
and making the most of it and still enjoying it is something I feel like I've kind of taken into like my work life even of,
yeah,
you have this thing you want to work on or this priority in mind and that flexibility to just kind of take what is given and just
yeah.
enjoy it and figure out how to make the most of it is something that is really powerful.
Yes, I love that. So one of my mottos when I was out is along those lines, because I knew how stressed or how like challenging it was in that sense that you don't have any control over what you're going to be working on,
Right.
what's coming next. So I always would think of three things that I was thankful for that happened that day. And like you said, some days are just survival, and sometimes it's just getting back is uh,
Hmm.
is the
Right.
goal, and it's something to be thankful for. And I think in everything that we do in life, it's the same way. The less of an agenda we have for what we think we deserve, or
Right.
like deserve, the more thankful we can be for what is, right?
Oh yeah.
Thanks so
And
much
it really
for
simplifies to the like what do you want to be happy to, right? Like I just feel like after I've gotten a really good session in the a lot of the like what do I need to be happy is so much simpler. And I feel like that too, just having that in and out of my life throughout the summer and everything like that just makes it so much easier to then be grateful and happy with what I do have all the time.
yeah, right, yeah, exactly. It's suddenly you could be a minimalist as long as you have your gear.
Right?
So anyway, thank you so much for your time,
Oh
Sarah,
yeah,
and we will see you hopefully soon on the water.
absolutely.